It's about relationships. Why do people go to Amazon and buy? Why is that their first place? Because there's a relationship. They know that they're going to get the product in a day or two if they're Prime. They know that if there's a problem, it's easy to return. There's a trust there. You don't have that. You're Johnny Brand selling whatever. You don't have that trust. You got to build that trust, and just selling one-off stuff off of Amazon is not going to build that trust.
Welcome to the Day 2 podcast. Today's episode, direct marketing, e-commerce, and Amazon legend Kevin King joins me to talk about how things have changed and how they will evolve in the future. I'm Jason Boyce, founder and CEO of Avenue 7 Media and host of the Day 2 podcast. With me today is Kevin King, who's been in direct marketing and e-commerce since 1989. Kevin was one of the first on the Amazon marketplace and has extensive experience with cutting-edge strategies and is a true educator in our field. Just a few of the things Kevin has accomplished, but not by any means the full list. He created the $1 Billion Seller newsletter, the #1 course for Amazon sellers called Freedom Ticket, with over 160,000 students. He founded and hosts the $1 Billion Seller Summit, the industry's most elite. He hosts the AM/PM podcast for Amazon and e-commerce sellers, formerly hosted by Manny Coates of Helium 10. And Kevin is a keynote speaker, and he's been featured in USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and wait for it, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Kevin, what was it like to meet Robin Leach first and foremost?
I actually didn't meet him. I met one of his other people on that. I was an expert in a show. I wasn't the actual feature of the show, but I was actually an expert on a topic that they were doing a show on.
Awesome. I love it. I remember that show fondly and that great accent from Robin Leach. So that was of all of the very long list of accomplishments you have, my favorite was being on Lifestyles of the Rich.
I thought it would be being on the Day 2 podcast.
Well, that's your next best, right?
That's the crowning achievement. I finally made it here.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Welcome to the show. And how you doing today?
I'm alive and kicking, man. Every day above ground's a good day, right?
I love it. I love it. Kevin, you bring a wealth of experience in e-commerce and selling things. Take us back to the very first thing you ever sold, if you even remember it. What was the first thing you sold and how did you sell it?
Yeah, first thing I sold, I was about 3 or 4 years old, was bubble gum to the neighborhood kids. I had my mom take me to the, I think it's called Gibson's. This is before we had Walmart, a little West Texas town called Brownwood. And I'd buy, I think it was a penny there's a bubble gum that had on the wrapper. You might go back long enough to remember this. And they had cartoons on the wrapper when you unfolded it and you chew it and it'd be a sugar blast for about 3 seconds and then just be like chewing rubber after that. But I would buy those for a penny and sell them for a nickel to the neighborhood kids. I'd set up a little store in the garage and have my 10 pieces of bubble gum or 20 pieces of bubble gum laid out, and I'd take a old oatmeal can, Quaker oatmeal came in like these little like cardboard.
Yeah, had a little cap on it.
And I turned those into a drum with some sticks, and like you can buy a drum or you can buy some bubble gum. So I think that's my first entrepreneurial venture was when I was must have been 3 or 4 years old.
Amazing. Okay, I thought you were going to start at like 12, maybe 15, 3 or 4, Kevin. All right, what was next then? Now you got me. You got me hooked now. How did the bubblegum business evolve into what it is today?
Well, from there, I'm sure I sold a whole bunch of other stuff, but I know I sold the back of a stamp. I sold stamps and coins in the back of little collector's magazines. I mowed yards. I painted street numbers on curbs. I picked up cans, aluminum cans and bottles off the side of the road, and I'd go raid the soccer fields after a tournament. Go dumpster diving and pick all those up. I was making so much money when I was like 11 or 12. Back then, this was in the 80s, like late 70s, early 80s, I guess, late 70s, early 80s. I was making so much money, my parents made me save half of it. They're like, this is a 12-year-old making $200 a week is too much money. So they made me save half of it, and I didn't know where that was going, but it ended up being my college spending money. So when I was in college, my dad paid for my college, but he said, I'm going to give you a spending allowance for beer. And, he didn't say beer, but that's what it's for. It's for beer and pizza and whatever. And that money that I had saved was that money. So I spent my own money to party on in college. Made when I was like 12 years old. But yeah, I'd take 13 or 14. I'd listen to the Billboard Top 40, Casey Kasem's Top 40 countdown. take notes because I couldn't get to the library to see the Billboard charts. This is before the internet or anything. And then I go to school and say, here's the top 40 songs or albums or whatever this week. Anybody want to buy Queen's Another One Bites the Dust? And people would put in their order. I'd get my mom to drive me down to the record store because I was 13, 14. It's about 30 minutes away. Once a week, I'd pick up some albums, come back and sell them, mark them up about $3 and sell them to the kids at school. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I'm in my 50s now. I haven't worked for anybody since I was about 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. Never had a corporate job. I don't even know how to fill out a W-2. Was it called W-2? I don't even know how to fill that out. Never made a resume other than for a class in college. Never sent a resume to anybody. I just got on LinkedIn a couple months ago, not to try to get jobs or anything, but more just to network. Yeah, I worked at McDonald's and I worked delivered pizzas, and I worked briefly in a deli for a couple months slicing ham and cheese, and that's the extent of my work for somebody else ever in my life.
You were literally born an entrepreneur.
I was.
Tell me about the direct marketing stuff. Now, obviously, everything, it's almost like that record business was almost a dropship business. You got your orders first.
Yep.
You got your receivables, and then you knew exactly what to buy. So you got that figured out at a very early age. But tell us a little bit about your direct marketing experience. When did you get involved in that? What did you like about it?
Yeah, the first taste of that would be the selling stamps and coins in the back of, I don't remember the names of the magazines, a little stamp collector magazine or something. You'd buy them on the newsstand. In the back would be little classified ads. It said, buy an assortment of, I don't remember even what it was, 30 different stamps from African countries or something, for $2. Send a SACE, self-addressed stamped envelope. For those of you younger ones listening, that means you give the envelope with a stamp on it with your address already on it. So all I got to do is stick it in the envelope and send it back. I don't got to stand in line at the post office or pay anything. That's called a SACE. That was popular. In high school, I taught myself, my parents bought one of the very first MS-DOS computers. It was a Xerox computer. I think I was my sophomore year of high school or maybe junior year of high school. And I remember one summer I just played on this thing and taught myself BASIC. And this was, it had floppy drives, big 5.25-inch floppy drives. And I taught myself the basic computing language. When I got to college, there was a sophomore level class called BANA stands for Business Analytics, BANA 217, that all business majors at Texas A&M had to take. And there's probably 800, 900, maybe 1,000 students taking in a business school. And there's 3 or 4 different professors that taught it. But for whatever reason, when they did the exams during the semester, the professors would organize the exams to be all on the same day. So they would say, okay, these are the dates on this Thursday, September 30th, and on November 7th, and on December 10th are going to be the exams, no matter who your professor was. I started off just tutoring. I put up little signs around the university, and people would tear off my number and call me and say, hey, I need some help learning how to do this basic computing language, and I'd do one-on-one. It quickly grew to where I got too many people, so I started doing 1-on-3, 1-on-5, started renting rooms in the library, little conference rooms, 1-on-8, and it grew so big that I ended up renting out a ballroom at the Hilton Hotel or Hyatt Hilton, I think it's Hilton Hotel, and charging $15 a head and getting 400 people to come in there right before each exam. So I'd make $6,000 or more. Sometimes I'd make as much as $10,000. Sometimes I got 700 or 800 people after the word got out. And I just spend 2.5 hours. I had my own study system that I made, and I teach them what they needed to know to pass the test. It's like a SAT prep or something. And I did that for like 3 years. So I was making a lot of money. So you're in college, so we had the nicest stereo. We had the nicest, coolest parties. Our house, I was with 3 other guys. Our apartment was like the movie Animal House. We partied 6 nights a week and took Tuesdays off because that was Blockbuster new release day on VHS to see the latest movies. And so I wanted to learn how to be a bartender because we're drinking as college kids do, but I wasn't 21 yet. So I couldn't actually learn to mix with the regular alcohol. I had to go and I took a class. It's just using colored water basically. And here's how to make a rum and Coke. And here's how to make these different ones. So I went out and I had the money. I went out and bought a bar and bought all this alcohol, $1,000, $2,000 of alcohol. So of course our place became even more popular with that. And then I started basically funding the parties. And I was like, this ain't right. People should be paying their way, chipping in. So I wrote a little program in basic computer language on an Apple IIe computer. And that Apple IIe computer would keep bar tabs. It had all the recipes of different drinks. So someone I said some esoteric drink, I'm like, oh, here's how to make it. It's 3 parts this, 2 parts this, a splash of this, and then it would keep I made it so it would keep bar tabs, and then I decided, you know what, I could sell this. So there's a Computer World magazine, and so I took out an ad in the back in the classified section, I think, maybe a little tiny display ad for a couple $100, and said, hey, get the U-Shoes. It was called the U-Shoes Bartender. And I used the university computers to print off my manuals because they had laser printers. Laser printers back then were like $4,000.
Yeah.
Or something. So I used it, and I got in trouble for that. But that was my first venture into direct marketing. Then I also did in college a coupon book. So I would go to all the pizza places, the Kinko's copies, the dry cleaning places, any hamburger places, and get them to give me a coupon. Buy a burger, get free fries with this coupon. At the beginning of the semester, I would go and I would get the mailing list of all the students at the university, because in Texas it's public information. I did the same thing for those computer classes. I would get all the students taking that class and send them a flyer in the mail announcing my teaching dates. And so I would send this coupon book out. And it just evolved from there into more and more direct marketing. Then I started a company called the College Lifestyle Company. We did I hired an ad agency. We did I think it's 16 or 24 page full color catalog of products. I was 21 years old. I was flying to Chicago to the big markets, gift markets or whatever, and looking for stuff that people might want in a college room, like little Nerf basketballs you can put over the door to shoot in, or little college refrigerators, or little T-shirts, or little neon beer sign lights, or whatever. Yeah, we did a whole catalog with that, and I set up 800 numbers that was coming into a room of my apartment. And I hired a couple girls to answer this 800 number, and I advertised in the back of back then, to register for universities, you would get a book in the mail. Back then, it's before the internet. You would get like a printed book and would have, here's all the classes, and each class had a code, and you would call an 800 number for the university or a local number and say, I want to register for, and you punch in the phone, I want 77322, I want this one, and whatever. And you could advertise in those all over the United States for different universities. So I'd advertise in that. And then I did stuff with care packages in college, where we would get the list of different kids at different universities and send out something to their parents right before Valentine's and right before finals, saying, take care of little Johnny. He's stressed out studying for finals. Send him this care package. We have a junk care package and we have a healthy one. And we'd go to Sam's Club and buy all this stuff and assemble these care packages of granola bars and candy bars and juices and whatever, and then drive around Texas to different universities and hand deliver them. I did a lot of crazy stuff. So that's where my direct marketing, and that evolved into another magazine and a whole bunch of other stuff, and a whole collectible business that I ran for many years, and then eventually into Amazon. So I was well trained in all this sourcing and direct marketing and everything before I ever got into Amazon.
Whoa. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's just a touch of it.
Right? That's unbelievable. The irony about the classes that you were making $6,000 a class on is that you probably got the best grade in the class because you're teaching it and you learn it better that way. So you didn't have any.
Well, I'd already taken it. Yeah, I got
it. Okay.
Yeah, I'd already taken it, but I placed out of it. Professors actually didn't like me because they kept trying to change the way they were doing it because I was making them look bad in their mind. Like, if all of our students are going there to learn, they would badmouth me. Like, no, don't go to that. It's going to be a waste of time. You're not going to learn anything you didn't learn from me. And they would keep coming. So obviously I was doing something right that the teachers weren't doing.
It's pretty incredible. Most young people go to college so that they could get an education and learn a job and then go, get married, have their 2.1 kids and have a dog. You went there and turned it into your entrepreneurial playground, Kevin.
It was.
It's pretty incredible. What a great story.
Yeah. When I was, I think my senior year, we had a class that we had to do an audit. It was a contest. Blockbuster Video sponsored it with a $5,000 cash prize. And it was, our teacher would assign us in a marketing school, groups of 4. And we had to go pick a business and audit that business and say, what would we do different? Basically a full-on audit, as if, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? And write a big report. And the other 3, I just finally told them, like, look, y'all are useless. Just let me do it. And so I just went and did it, and we won. It's a big reward ceremony and everything. So yeah, it was definitely my playground.
You were definitely born with the capitalist gene, Kevin. It's a secret superpower. Pretty incredible for any of our younger listeners. If even a quarter of these stories are happening to you, there's a place for you in e-commerce. Let's talk about that now, Kevin. You're doing things in catalogs and magazines, direct marketing, really
And
inventing
I still
ways.
do it today. I mean, it's not, I mean, I just came back from a trip to Australia. These are envelopes that come in the mail with checks and money orders in them,
Come on.
written out to my company. But it still exists, and everybody thinks everything's online. It's not. There's still a
Oh,
huge market offline, and I marry the two of them together.
I love it. We're going to get to that in a minute, and especially when we talk about email marketing in a minute. So you have all of these amazing experiences just from your entrepreneurial mind, inventing these ways to make money. And then somewhere along the line in the 90s, Kevin, this thing called the internet pops up. When you first saw the internet, what did you think? And how did you, I can only imagine what happened to your brain when you realized that this internet thing was popping up and that you could make money on it. Tell us a little bit about some of your first e-com ventures.
Yeah, when I was in college, we had access to, I don't forget what it was called, but we could go into this computer lab and there's these consoles and
I remember I had a computer lab. I
we could
remember
talk to, on these chats to like some other university. It's super basic. And I remember when AOL came out and you could log on to AOL and you could see the newspaper from Charlotte, North Carolina or something. I'm like, wow, this is cool. And you're on a little dial-up modem. So I was involved in some of that. I've always had a computer in my life. When in college, I was using the Mac SE or whatever, doing PageMaker, which is now Quark, which is now, Adobe Design's the big one in the space now. But I was doing all kinds of design and layouts and brochures and everything on that. I was doing all my own stuff. I didn't have a design team or graphics people. I was doing all my own stuff, designing my own catalogs, everything. And I remember my first touch of the internet was 1994. 1994, of the modern day internet. And I remember I was working, I needed a logo and I didn't know how to cut the back, make it transparent. For whatever reason, I couldn't get it to go transparent. Now it's a matter of just like that, and I needed it to be transparent so I could float on something. And I had a buddy in town that owned a graphic design agency. And I called him and I said, hey, I'm going to bring you by a floppy disk with my logo on it. Can you just have one of your guys fix it real quick for me? He's like, no, just email it to me. I was like, what? What do you mean email it to you? He's like, just email it to me. I was like, how do you do that? And he's like, well, just set up this account. I don't even remember what it was. And just attach it and, and send it to me and we'll send it right back. You don't have to drive over here. I was like, oh, you can do that? So that was my first taste. And then from there, I started, I started developing a website, I think in 1995. Yeah, I got on. That's Alta Vista. It was Lycos. It was Yahoo. There's a handful of others. Google didn't exist. There's a handful of others. And it was so easy to game the SEO system. You just would, whatever you put in your title, you rank number one, whatever you put in your little description below the title, your meta tags, or you could fill in the bottom of the page and with all these keywords and then just change the color to white to match the background color of white and you'd index immediately for everything. So I was gaming all that, driving people to a website. Well, later on we had a membership website, but I was selling calendars, DVDs. I had a whole catalog business where we had about 200 different SKUs, mostly collector cards. I dealt with pretty girls on collector cards. So I had a business where we actually made some ourselves, and then we went out to everybody else. It was a hot business. Around the time Beanie Babies became hot in the 90s, baseball cards with pretty girls on them became hot. So could be the Hawaiian Tropic Bikini Team. It could be the Playboy Playmates. It could be some strip club in Florida. It could be whatever. It became a huge business, and people were collecting these and paying big money for them. So we became the biggest distributor of that and the number one company and created a catalog. And I was renting mailing lists. I was going out and getting the mailing list of Cigar Aficionado. Well, Cigar wasn't around there, but Cigar Trader Magazine.
Sure.
And renting their mailing list. I was advertising in these catalog of catalogs and doing all kinds of direct marketing stuff to build up a list of buyers. And then I saw the internet. I was like, holy cow, I don't have to spend $3 a lead anymore. I can just throw up an Alta Vista website and get all these people onto my list. So that was my first, and that evolved into a newsletter with 250,000 people a day getting it in the late 90s, early 2000s, getting on Howard Stern, blowing up our servers.
Okay, stop. Howard Stern. You were on Howard Stern talking
I
about your
personally
car.
wasn't, but we had some of our. I was there in the green room 4 or 5 times with some of our models went on Howard Stern.
Got
You
it.
can see some of the stuff on if you Google on YouTube. If you look go on you not Google on YouTube. Google is YouTube. Go to YouTube and search for Katia Corvo, KatiaCorriveau, Howard Stern. You'll see one of our shows. It's on YouTube. Our girls didn't do the crazy stuff. Howard Stern back then was known for some. They would go on, but this girl, she went on, and she was one of our cover models on one of our magazines, and she went on, and Howard tried to get her to strip down, and she wouldn't do it. But finally, they convinced her. Well, if you put on a bikini, you put on a bikini, and she's like, no, I'm not going to put on a bikini. They're like, well, then she flipped it. She's like, well, if I have to get in my underwear, you have to get in your underwear. So she made their whole studio get in their underwear. EAT Entertainment Television was filming it back then. But we would get plugs on that, and it would blow up our freaking servers. And we got so many leads for our newsletter, so many leads for everything. Every time we put someone on there, we literally had to have someone flipping. This was when he was on terrestrial radio, not on satellite. So he had a huge syndicated audience, much bigger than he has now. And it was crazy. It was crazy times.
So you immediately saw the promise of the internet because you understood that customers mattered, lists mattered.
I've always been list matters. Yeah, owning the list is the number one thing. Owning the customer is the number one thing, in the distribution channel. So having a catalog or having your own distribution is important too. I mean, the early days, our newsletter was doing well. We had USA Today come to us. Mark Cuban, when he started HDNet and wanted HD programming in 2003, I think it was, 2004, somewhere around in there. He came to us. I used to do something for traffic back in the 90s with a site called BOMIS, BOMIS, and it was a ring site. So before Google existed, a lot of times it's kind of like TikTok. It's a good analogy to TikTok. TikTok now, you just scroll through a feed and it kind of shows you what's next. Well, there used to be websites that were like that, and they were called ring sites. So you land on one ring site, and down at the bottom was like a previous or next button, and you just kind of go in this circle. And it's next, kind of the same as scrolling on social media now. And one of them was called BOMIS, and they featured jokes, they featured pretty girls, they featured different, all kinds of different things, travel stuff. But I was on that site, and we got a lot of traffic from them. I always remember one day, there's two guys I dealt with, and one of the guys says, "Hey, James is leaving. You're just going to be dealing with me now." I was like, "Oh, cool. What's James going to do?" He's like, "Oh, he's going to start some like encyclopedia website or something." Turns out it was Jimmy Wells from Wikipedia that started Wikipedia. I was dealing with him before he was Jimmy Wells from Wikipedia. So the old days, it goes back. I mean, he probably doesn't remember me from Adam now, but we had many calls and email exchanges back in the day.
So you do direct marketing, you jump all over the internet from the word go, building lists, using email, building a catalog business, packaging things together to resell, you created your own brands as well. And then Amazon shows up. What runs through Kevin King's mind the minute Amazon starts to open up its third-party sales?
Well, I actually was selling before they opened up. I sold on, I remember when PayPal came out, and they were giving $10 in your account if you signed up, and $10 to me as an affiliate commission for every account signed up. And so I remember quoting that. And around that time, I was selling some CDs or DVDs. I think it was around the time the transition of going from, it wasn't DVD to Blu-ray. It was, maybe it was music to DVD, albums to DVD or something. So I had a bunch of stuff to sell, and I was like, where can I sell this? I was selling on eBay, and I saw on Amazon. I was poking around on Amazon, and it said, sell yours. You have one to sell yours. And I was like, oh, let me throw it on there. And it freaking sold just like that. I didn't have to go through some sort of auction stuff or wait. They took the money. I got it. I was like, this is pretty freaking cool. So I started selling. I'd put stuff, if I had an old printer, I'd put it on eBay and I'd put it on Amazon. And on Amazon, it's sell yours. I put as used, whatever. And I'd sell it faster on Amazon. I was like, holy cow, this Amazon stuff is way better than this eBay stuff. This is before they had a third-party marketplace. So then I was like, how can I get involved in selling on Amazon? I was hearing the news that they were losing money hand over fist, but they were growing. So I said, we have these calendars. What about our calendars? So I contacted them. I don't remember who I contacted or how I did it, but I contacted them. They said, we'll take them and what's called the Advantage program. I don't know if it still exists, but it was for books, media, and DVDs only. And you would send it in basically on consignment. So they issue a kind of a consignment purchase order. And it would be for like the first year was like 200 units or something like that. And then the next year was like 400 units. Now we sell that in a few hours in a day. But back then that was a lot. So I would send in my calendars, and then as they would sell, I think every month, I think it was, they would pay us on it. So I was like, this is pretty cool. So I did that for a long time. And then it was in 2015 that I'd been doing it. I closed down one business. It was traveling the world. I traveled the world for like 7 years and just kind of working on the side and traveling, and went to like 94. I've been to 94 countries. So I did a whole lot of travel, and it kind of started to run out of money. And I was like, all right, what can I do now? And so I started looking at some different things, and I saw something on the line from amazing.com. They were doing a course. It's like a 4-part webinar on how to sell third party on Amazon. I think it was about 2014 or late 2014. And I was like, I watched it, and then at the end they say, hey, pay us $5,000 for this course and we'll teach you everything. I was like, I watched what they were doing in the free webinar. I was like, I don't need this course. I've been doing this already. I've already been sourcing from Asia. I've been selling online. I know what the heck I'm doing. I already know I'm already on Amazon as a third party seller. Why don't I do this? So I launched 5 brands in 2015 on Amazon. With me and I had a silent partner who put up some money, and we took about $200,000 and launched 5 brands on Amazon. 2 of those still exist today. The other 3 have closed them down. And I've started some others. I still sell on Amazon, even though I teach and I do all the stuff. I still have active Amazon seller accounts. I think that's important. I'm not some big 8-9 figure seller. I don't have any desire to be, but 7 figures a year, nice and easy, and keep my foot in the game, and make a little money. It's all good for me.
You don't need to be a top, 9-figure seller, because you got checks showing up at your door every day.
That's right.
From all the magazine order and sales and the newspaper sales. That's incredible. I love it. So look, obviously you are one of the rare birds, Kevin, that just has DNA, just has the entrepreneur DNA coursing through your veins. And you do a lot of teaching. You talk to a lot of young people about how to set up business, what the opportunities are. When you're talking to younger sellers who probably didn't know that you could sell things before there was something called the internet and Amazon, what's some advice that you give to folks just starting out in today's day and age?
Well, I would say, for the serious people, study the past. There's nothing new. Everybody, you see it online, something on YouTube. Oh, there's this new way of selling people, this new funnel, this new thing. I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, dude, we were doing that 40 years ago. All it's new is the technology, the channel, or the technology. In some ways, it's easier to track them now, or easier, but we were doing all that before, just in a different way. And, you used to run infomercials, and you have a different 1-800 number for every market. So you know which markets were working. Now you have an affiliate link and a tracking link. It's the same thing, just a different medium and evolved. So human psychology has not changed. How to Think and Grow Rich was written 100 years ago, and it hasn't changed. The psychology of humans hasn't changed. It's just the delivery mechanisms and the technology has changed. And that's what a lot of people, they think that's the new hot thing, and they think they discovered something new. And no, you haven't. Study the past. Go back and look at Ogilvy and some of those guys from the 40s and 50s. There's a lot of valuable stuff in there that if you take those principles and apply them to what we're doing today, you can crush it. That's the number one thing that I would say to the young people is, don't think you're the hottest guy on the block because you have this great idea, because it ain't new, dude.
I couldn't agree with you more, Kevin, on that, because there's so many YouTube videos out there, people showing you how to sell on Amazon. What they're showing is the technical aspects of using the technology to sell, but what they're missing is what you're talking about. Those core elements of buy for $1, sell for $2, whatever those basics are, building your customer list, remarketing, all of those things that have fancy, cool tech buzzword names now with the technology. All of that stuff was here before.
The fundamentals are what matters. Hacks are cool, and hacks can sometimes get you out of a bind, and people love to get the hacks. I teach some of those because people like to hear it, but the core is the fundamentals. And so a lot of these YouTube videos, most of them that are teaching you how to drop ship or how to sell on Amazon are failed sellers. The vast majority. Some of them are actually truly successful, but if you peel back the onion, most of them aren't making any money selling. They're making their money teaching you. And so most of them don't know what they're doing, or they did it for a month and like, oh, I'm just going to teach this. Now I kind of figured out I'm going to teach it. They have no clue what they're doing. And they like you said, they just show the glamorous parts. Sell it for $20, buy it on Alibaba for $2. You got a 90% profit margin. No, you don't, dude. You're leaving out everything in between. You don't show any of the cash flow. I see this happens all the time. People are like, how much money do I need to start selling on Amazon? Well, it depends. It depends on your goal. If you're from Pakistan making $500 a month and you can make $1,000 a month selling on Amazon, maybe you can start with $3 to $5 and change your life. But if you're in the Western world and trying to quit your job, no way in hell you're going to start with that low of money and have any chance of success. You might start with that. You always hear stories. I started with $500. But what they don't tell you is that a month in, their supplier gave them some crazy terms and they got lucky. Their rich uncle gave them something. They put something on a credit card. There's a lot more to the story that's just BS. And a lot of them say, here's the 10 steps. Do this to launch your products. People they like actions, but that's not how I teach it. In the Freedom Ticket, I teach the fundamentals. It's 60 hours of training, and I teach you to think for yourself. I say, this is how it works. This is what you need to know. Now go implement it. I'm not going to say, here's the 20 steps. Do this first. Do number 2, do this, because that doesn't work. Everybody is different. Focus on the fundamentals. And a big one that people make is how much money do I need? It's my rule of thumb is a minimum of 2.5 times your initial landed cost. So if you're looking to start selling a product on Amazon and you find some sort of a garlic press that you can buy for $2, and you look at the Helium 10 or Jungle Scout or whatever tool of choice you want to see which they're going to sell, and you want to rank in the top, say it's on page 1, spot number 5, that means you need to sell 300 a month, let's say, and it takes you 2 months to get the product made, another month to get it shipped here, so you got 3 months worth of inventory that you need to have behind, so you need to order 600 of these things. So 600 of them, and let's say they cost you $5 a piece, that's $3,000. Well, a lot of people would be like, okay, I've got $3,000. I'm gonna start this. That's a mistake. You need to have 2.5 times $3,000. You need to have about $8,000 to actually have a fighting chance of making that work, because you're going to have advertising costs. You're going to have other software costs. You're going to have other costs involved in it.
Returns, cost of capital,
returns, everything else. Plus, you're going to start selling. And you're like, holy cow, this is actually doing well. I need to call the factory and get more. They're going to want 30% down. Where's that money going to come from? You need to keep the ball rolling, or you're just going to be DOA. And you're going to run out of stock, and then basically someone's going to take your place, or you're going to be starting over when you come back. So that's a big fundamental mistake a lot of new people make, including experienced sellers. They don't start with enough budget, enough cash to actually give themselves the runway to have a chance of success. So I teach all that kind of stuff. And all the fundamentals. And then the best thing for me is when I have people, I'm at a Prosper show or somewhere, and someone comes up and says, hey, Kevin, so happy to meet you. Can we take a selfie or something? I'm like, sure. It's like, then they tell me, I took your class 4 years ago. Now my company's doing $50 million.
Wow.
Or they're doing, I was able to quit my job or whatever. That's the reward for me, is being able, I didn't do the work. They did all the work. It wasn't any magic I did. I just gave them that little, everybody needs a little pushing hand. Everybody needs a little help. I just gave them that little push, that little basic information. And I encourage people, don't just listen to me. You should go, there's other people in this space that are smart too, and they might have a different approach. Listen to them all and make your own way and decide what's best for what your goals are and for what you're trying to achieve.
I love that comment about cash. Cash is what can make or break your business. So setting that expectation, whatever you think you're going to need, you probably need 2.5 times that, is a heck of a safety net to put together to give this business a chance to come to life. So,
and too many people don't know margins economic. I mean, you need to be selling online for 4 to 6 times your landed cost. So back on this garlic press, if it's $3 and let's say my landed cost is $4, I should not be selling those for anything less than $20. And I'll see people that will sell that for $11.99 because that's what everybody else is selling it for. And I was like, you have no chance of success. The money's made in sourcing, not in selling. So that's number one. But number two is if you don't have the margin, in direct mail business, we used to say 5 to 1 to make it work. Internet, you can do a little bit less in some cases. Depends on the more expensive the product, the less the multiple can be. But for sub $100 products, you need that 4 to 5, 6 is ideal. And if you don't have that margin, then your chance of success is extremely low. And I mean, one of my calendar products, for example, we print in South Korea. Our landed cost is $1.60 and we sell for $20. And so I have room there if a competition comes in and is pricing me out. One, our stuff is unique, so we have no direct competition.
That's the key. That's a very key component for maintaining that high margin. That's right, Kevin.
Differentiation is, too many people don't differentiate enough. Too many people are Me Too products. Oh, I'm going to throw a warranty in with it. Or I'm going to throw a PDF cookbook, or I'm going to change the color from red to orange, or I'm going to include a free brush. It's not enough. Two of the products when I launched 5 of them in 2015, 2 of those I designed myself from scratch. One of them was an iPhone charging station with a Bluetooth speaker it would charge 3 different devices at once. It was really, really nice. It was a $90 product. It wasn't going Alibaba and find something that someone has and stick my name on. It cost me $35,000 in molding costs, and I developed it from scratch. It was a top seller. Another one I did is a dog bowl, slow feed dog bowl, and there's slow feed dog bowls doing good, and a lot of them on Amazon now are $5, $6, $8, but they're just pieces of plastic. They're ugly looking little things. I was like, I don't want that in my house. I want a nice looking bowl, so I created one that's in the shape of a bone. Doesn't slide on the floor, has little holes if you want to stake in the ground outside and all this other stuff. And I created the own molds myself, did 3D printing on it, did the whole process. Molds cost like $6,000. I sell it to small size for $19.95 and the large size for $24.95. Was I the best seller? No, because people that wanted just commodity bowl didn't care. They bought the $6 one. But I could compete on some of the keywords and sell it. People that want a quality product would pay for it. Everybody thinks Amazon's about lowest price. It's not. It is in some categories, on some keywords, on commoditized items, it can be. But if you differentiate, and people, a lot of times they don't understand what differentiation means. All business is marketing and innovation. Those are the 2 fundamentals of any business. If you can master the marketing and the innovation part, you have a good chance of winning. Look at Apple. That's what they do. Their whole business is innovating and marketing. The whole marketing of be different, of the 1984 ad, of everything. And then it's innovation with products. You nail those 2 things, you're going to most likely succeed. And most people don't understand that, or they're not willing to put in the work. It's a long-term play. It's not a quick win.
Yeah, Kevin, and just backing up what you said, I lived that. I used to go over to China, go into the showroom. I'll take one of those, and sell it, because we were undercutting US-based companies who are importing. We were undercutting their price. And then what happened a few years later is the Chinese themselves came in and started selling the exact same product at a heck of a lot lower than I could sell it as. And we had to evolve, and we had to start designing and developing something that was cooler and different. My co-author, Rick Cesare, have you met Rick? I feel like maybe you have.
I might have in passing somewhere. I don't know.
Our mutual buddy, Steve Simonson, knows Rick too, but Rick said it best: difference better than better. And now on Amazon, you got ratings, so you got to be better too. In terms of quality, you got to have a good quality product, but that differentiation, focus on cash flow. If our listeners who are young and getting ready to start, Kevin, just focus on those 2 things alone, they will leave this podcast a lot smarter and ultimately a lot richer down the road.
A lot of people may be like, well, I don't know if my idea is going to work. What if someone steals it? You just got to go. You just got to go, and it may fail, but you're going to learn a lot off of it. And you're going to pick yourself up and do it again. I've had bankruptcy. I actually filed for bankruptcy. I've gotten into tax problems because I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, I've been the whole gamut. That's part of business. If that's not for you, that's okay. Go work for somebody and do it for them and have the nice guaranteed salary and the benefits and everything, and be happy. If you're a risk taker and you want the big rewards, and you like helping others and like leading the pack, then be an entrepreneur.
All right. I got a past question for you, and then I got a future question for you, Kevin.
Sure.
And then we'll wrap up here. What marketing tool that some folks maybe have never heard of or wouldn't think to consider in today's, quote, technology age is still one of the best performers that you have? That someone should think about, but maybe it's not sexy anymore, Kevin, but it's sure, based on Kevin King's experience, you should really think about it because it works really, really well still.
Well, it's getting data on your list. It's not so much a tool; it's a resource. Like Melissa Data is an example. Melissa Data is a company that has massive amounts of data where you can append your data. If you got a list of customers, you can get their mailing address. If you got a list of email addresses, you can get their physical address. You can create avatars of your customer. Here's a list of 1,000 of my buyers. Who are they? Oh, the 80% of them are soccer moms that drive a Toyota SUV, and they live in this and that. You can get all kinds of demographics. Those are the things that most people aren't doing, that can really help you pinpoint your market. Doing that back end stuff, it's not so much a whiz bang cool tool to find keywords or to find, to control your finances, or there's tons of those. But it's doing that core fundamental understanding your avatar stuff that big companies do it, but all these small Amazon sellers rarely do it. They don't even know it exists. In most cases, there's all this big data that you can overlay to what you have, and there's ways to build your audience besides just Amazon. Through newsletters, through obviously through social media, and other ways that you can do things. You don't have to just depend on Amazon. Amazon's a great marketplace of choice for most people, and it's a great place to start. There's never been anything like it in 100 years. It's the best business opportunity there ever has been, in my opinion, for a small guy to actually compete against the big boys. But it's not the only place, but it's a great place to start. And then when you're ready, don't do it too soon. You can branch off into doing other things, and then let Amazon still be 40, 50, 60% of your sales, because it probably will be, but you can accentuate those sales by doing offline stuff, by making money offline and helping it boost your online. I mean, a perfect example, that's those envelopes I just showed you. What I do is I have a list of 17,000 customers who have been buying from me for 20, 25 years, calendars. So every year we send them out a brochure in the mail. It's a printed brochure that looks something like this, and this just folds out. We send it to them in the mail. Some of them prefer to write it. They're old school. They don't have a credit card. They don't like the internet, don't trust it, for whatever reason. They want to pay $12.95 shipping and handling. We used to have a phone number where they could call in. I had 4 girls answering, and I got rid of that. And that cut my sales a little bit, but it's like, it's just not worth it. But they'll mail in those checks and money orders. But I also put in that brochure, I said, oh, you don't want to pay shipping and handling? Go buy it on Amazon. It's available on Amazon.com. What does that do? Some of them go there, and they're Prime members. They don't pay the $9.95 or $12.95 shipping and handling that I charge. It juices the rankings, and it helps me launch the product without not ever having to do. I don't do any PPC on our calendars, zero. And we'll sell. We're already right now, as we're recording this, it's before Thanksgiving. We're already doing $3,000-$4,000 a day right now. That'll 3 to 5x later this week.
And you're driving that traffic externally from your
traffic. It gets the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And then because I know these guys are collectors, they're not going to just go buy my calendar. They're going to buy other people's on there. So what does that do? That gets me in the customers who viewed this also viewed that of other similar things, and it starts that snowball rolling. And so I get on all these other listings naturally start doing it in September before, when you're only selling a few a day, but you just ride that wave all the way up. And then once Black Friday hits, you're already positioned and you just keep riding the wave. I'm not having to come in and try to get into the middle of the wave. I'm just riding it from the beginning. So marrying those two together can be super powerful. And newsletters are another awesome way to do that most people are overlooking right now. A lot of people might roll their eyes when I say newsletters. I'm like, oh yeah, I get plenty of those. I don't have time. Emails, so 1990s, Kevin. Everybody's on TikTok now. Yeah, a lot of people are on TikTok, but newsletters are super powerful if done right. Most people are just doing promotional emails and they call it a newsletter. It's not a newsletter, but a newsletter done right. And I've seen this firsthand with my $1 Billion Sellers newsletter. I started it. It's a funnel for my events, and it's a function of my training, extension of my training. I haven't sold anything yet in them. But I started one in August. It's twice a week, and I underestimated the power that it gives me. What it's actually the ultimate test will be next year when I have my $5,000 event. Let's see how many extra sales I get off of that. But the power of a newsletter done properly is amazing, and most people aren't willing to put in the work or the effort to do that. But I'm doing it now for physical products. So for our dog brand, we're doing a newsletter. We're doing it for a cigar brand, doing it for a couple others. And this is not the company newsletter. Hey, we just came out with a new cigar, or here's a 20% off Black Friday sale, or Johnny just got promoted to vice president. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about providing real freaking value and just bang, bang, bang. Here's value, 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 value. Oh, you want my thing? But what you do is you build relationships. it's about relationships. Why do people go to Amazon and buy? Why is that their first place? Because there's a relationship. They trust them. They know that they're going to get the product in a day or two if they're Prime. They know that if there's a problem, it's easy to return. They know it's a quick and simple process. There's a trust there that's been built up over time. And Amazon lost money for years building that trust and building out their infrastructure. Now they have it. You don't have that. You're Johnny Brand selling whatever. You're not Nike. You don't have that trust. You got to build that trust, and just selling one-off stuff off of Amazon is not going to build that trust. You need to create relationships with your customers, and the best way to do that is through a regular, punctual newsletter and delivering massive value that they're not going to get anywhere else. It's not just a summary of the same stuff they can get somewhere else. And when you do that, you own them, and you can drive them anywhere you want. Drive them to Walmart, drive them to Shopify, drive them to Amazon. Get them to participate in your next product, and we're doing that with physical product brands now, and it's magical what it does.
Kevin, I love that, because so often when you talk to folks about Amazon, it's like, oh, Amazon's got the customer, you're renting the customer on there, but you're actually taking the customer and developing that customer in your own list so that you do own the customer, even though you're selling on Amazon.
Example of that's in my calendars. Calendars are like selling milk, they expire. So I have a 2024 calendars coming out now. Come January, even though you still have the full year left, people don't want to pay full price for a calendar. By this time next year, nobody wants a 2024 calendar. They want the 2025. So if I have extra stock, it's not like I'll just sell it next season. It's dead. So what I do is in every single calendar that goes on Amazon, we sell on calendars.com, we sell on a bunch of other places, there's a little 4x6 insert card. And this 4x6 insert card says, congratulations, you've won a free calendar. If you want to see our other calendars, go to this website. It has our URL. And a lot of people get that calendar, they go to our website, and they buy other calendars. The free calendars, it's free plus shipping. So some of those envelopes will be people sending me a $10 check. So it's free plus $10 shipping. So my calendar line of cost, let's just call it $2 to round it off. $2 cost me about $5 to send it out first class mail. So $7. So I just made $3 profit off of a lead. I got a lead, a true buyer. It's now on my list. So what do they get the next year? They get that brochure in the mail reminding them. Some of them come and they buy, because I don't just sell the ones we make. I sell others too. We import from Germany, other people's stuff. So I have a list. So I'm going to leverage it, not just for my stuff, leverage it for complementary, even competitive stuff. And you make more money that way. And so I do that. So Amazon to me is a lead gen. It's a profit center, but it's also a massive lead gen. Some people would say, well, you're not allowed to put inserts in your package. It's like BS. You're totally allowed to put inserts in your package. What you can't do is influence reviews. So you can't say, I'll give you something in exchange for a review, or scan this code to do this. And people say, well, you can't drive traffic off Amazon. That's what the TOS says. Yeah, that's what it says. You're not driving traffic off. That's after Amazon. That's when it's in my house. You can't put it on Amazon in the picture and have your URL showing up in your picture number 2, or put in your bullet points. Go to my website or send an email to the customer saying, come check it. They don't want you doing any of that. But once that product is in my house, it's my product. And just the biggest brands do it. All the big brands do it. You look at Stone, you buy something, they all are sending you somewhere. There's nothing wrong with that. And
there's a minimum, there's a warranty card where they're not really selling a warranty. They're capturing.
Yeah, it's a lot of misconception of what you can do. Amazon, what's contained in that box stays in that box. And so what Amazon doesn't want you doing is influencing reviews in any way and incentivizing reviews. And the second is they don't want you, while they're on the Amazon site, they don't want, or via the Amazon site, they don't want any misdirecting going anywhere else but back to Amazon. So as long as you do that, those inserts are fine. And we generate a lot off of that. And it builds a list, and it helps me the next year sell more on Amazon, sell more everywhere else.
Some might call it guerrilla, but it's a great way to bootstrap and get a business going, but then never stop. It's a way to scale a business and nurture a list and provide value and make profits off of that. I love what you're saying, Kevin. There aren't a lot of people talking about this.
The Melissa Data thing that I told you, you asked me the tool earlier.
Yeah.
Melissa Data. So before I mail these 17,000, what I do is people die, people move. And so if you canceled your email address and you're on my list and it bounces, I'm SOL. I was like, oh, I got to take Jason off. I got to take you off the list. If I go to Melissa Data and here's my list of customers, they tie into the National Change of Address, NCOA address with the post office going back 4 years. So they can tell me every time you move, they update the addresses for me. So I'm stalking you. I'm following you around everywhere you go. So that's another value of that tool is that I'm constantly in touch with you. I can't do that if I just have your email address. If I just have, I mean, you can. There are some ways, but it's much more complicated. But if you have the physical address of a human in the United States or Canada, it's extremely easy to stay in touch with them.
It's so funny you mentioned Melissa Data because we used to run our list through there just to determine who our customer was. There was long before Amazon would share customer demographics. And, you know, I've told this story a bunch of times on day 2, Kevin, where we thought we were like the bro man cave company. We were selling recreational games and foosball and billiard tables. But then, you know, when we saw our list, we went, holy crap. 65% of our customers are moms living in the suburbs. We need to change our branding immediately. Those lists and Melissa Data is such a great tool to reference for a lot of reasons. And I love some of the use cases that you put out there for our listeners.
There's others, Tower Data. I mean, Melissa Data is not the only one. There's Tower Data. There's a bunch of them. So you could, but that's just what I personally use.
All right, let's get your crystal ball out here, Kevin. There has been so much change on Amazon. Earlier this year, announcing Buy with Prime in the annual letter. You could DSP advertise to drive traffic to your e-commerce site. There's been announcements about a Shopify app, of buy buttons in Instagram and Facebook, and ad placements on Pinterest. Even last week, we learned that Hyundai is going to be selling cars on Amazon. So much change so fast. It's clear that they're moving outside of this walled garden that they've built. Are you surprised that they're going beyond their own walls? And what does this hold for the future in terms of Amazon? Where would you be thinking about taking your business based on all of these stories that keep hitting us almost on a weekly basis from Amazon?
I mean, I don't think Amazon's going anywhere. I mean, they're going to have some ups and downs, but Amazon's still the gorilla in the room, the elephant in the room. They're still going to be, you definitely want to be on Amazon. If you're selling e-commerce or even if you're selling, you need to be on Amazon because that is a shopping cart of choice for a lot of people. Whether you like them or not, or whether the problems you have or not, or whether you want to focus all your energy, you still need to be on Amazon. But I think where Amazon's getting their butt kicked right now is TikTok. TikTok is crushed. Amazon Live has not taken off. Amazon Inspire has not taken off. They're having trouble marketing and positioning that and getting people to actually use that. That's why they've partnered with Snap and with Facebook recently. TikTok Shop depends on, some people say there may be some regulations that come down that affect this, and that's possible. I don't think so. I think there may be government regulations that say you can't use TikTok on government devices. But there's a case in, I think it's Wyoming.
And those are there already. In
a lot of cases, those are there already.
Yeah.
And, if it gets nasty, I think they'll just spin it off. It may change names. It may change the U.S. ownership. There may be something. It's not going to just disappear. There'll be some form of that, but TikTok Shop is crushing it right now. And it's the new way of discovery for a lot of the younger people. Amazon's missed the boat on that. So I think TikTok is a threat to them, not in the near term, but long term. And I think Amazon realizes that. If I was selling right now, I'd be focusing on Amazon's still the best place to launch out of the gate. I would say TikTok is number 2 right now. I mean, it's not in volume of sales. Walmart.com is still way higher, but the opportunity on TikTok, because it's early and not a lot of people are there, the opportunity for individual people to crush it is extremely high. But I would say that you want to focus on 4 things if you're selling in the US: your own D2C, Amazon, Walmart.com, and TikTok. Everything else doesn't matter. In your own D2C initially, unless you're going to have a model that's the D2C model, and some people that's their model, is run Facebook ads, it's run TikTok or whatever, and that's the model. That's a whole different model than selling on Amazon. So I think Amazon's still the number 1 place to start. TikTok would be number 2. And if you're starting on TikTok first, make sure you have a presence on Amazon, because most people that are doing TikTok, even though TikTok Shop is there, you still have a lot of people that are just Googling a brand name on Amazon and going and buying it on Amazon. They're not going to Walmart.com and Googling a name. I mean, there might be a few, but the vast majority are going, people that are selling on TikTok Shop say they see a 20, 30% bump on Amazon because people just don't want to go to TikTok Shop. Their credit card's already stored in Prime. It's already there. So those 2 would be the 2, TikTok and Amazon would be the 2 I'd be heavily focusing on. TikTok's way behind. They're expecting like 20 billion or something like that in sales, which is, that's a good day for Amazon. But it's going to grow really, really fast, in my opinion. So I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's only going to get bigger, and it needs to be a part of everybody's strategy is those four in some level, and maybe not all at the same time if you're new, but that's where I think it's going. And I think you're going to see more social discovery mechanisms. And I think you're going to see Amazon open up a little bit more data to sellers, partly some of the FTC stuff, partly because they're going to need to allow their sellers to compete. You already have all the data that's been opening up over the last couple of years. You used to have to either pay black hat guys in China or India to get that or scrape it. Now they're opening it. That's going to become more. The biggest thing is, and Amazon's already doing this, is you need to be a brand, a true brand. A brand is not a logo or a name. A brand is an affinity and an identity. And that's where a lot of these new sellers, they don't understand how to do that. They don't understand what real true branding is and how to actually do a brand. And that's where, I mean, you look at the commercial right now, it's a really good case study for Amazon. I just saw this watching the Dallas Cowboy game yesterday. It's a 60-second commercial, and Adweek did a good case study. I probably featured in my newsletter on this commercial that Amazon just ran of these three elderly women sitting on a bench reminiscing about the days when they were snow sledding down a hill. I can't even speak. And it's a really good branding commercial. That's branding right there. They didn't say go to Amazon and buy a sled. It's branding and imagery, and it's really well done. It's shot in Mammoth, California, and it's a really good little case study on it. And the reaction that they're getting from the older crowd is extremely powerful and giving it a brand identity. That's where a lot of people are failing. Sellers are failing, is they don't understand that not everything is direct response. Sometimes, I just saw someone post yesterday in one of these groups I'm in. I do all these shows, and I'm just not getting an ROI from attending all these shows. And I'm like, you're attending the wrong shows, or you're doing it wrong. Because you're expecting to go to a show and have 10 new clients sign up, but it's branding. Coca-Cola is 100 plus years old. They still sponsor the Super Bowl and stuff. They still doing branding. You have to do that. It's not, and that's where I think a lot of people, they don't have the money or don't understand that aspect that in combination with direct marketing is a powerful 1-2 punch.
I mean, you can't grow if you can't introduce your products to people who don't know your brand and grow it.
And you want them to actually know your brand and want to be part of it. Look at Yeti. Yeti's a good one. I mean, brand gives you as a human a part of your identity. There's a reason some people drive Porsches and other people drive Hyundais.
Speaking of driving, I drove down the street, and I think I mentioned on the podcast before, you've got a brand when someone puts your brand names as a sticker on their back window of their truck, right? Yep. I saw Yeti as a sticker. You've got a brand when people are so connected to what you're creating that they want to announce to the rest of the world that they're a customer of yours. And I think you're right. I think that's the next. And maybe in combination, some of this video through TikTok is a way to do that. But you're just a wealth of knowledge, Kevin. I really appreciate you coming on the show. How can folks get a hold of you if they want to learn more at the feet of the great Kevin King?
Probably the best way right now is subscribe to my newsletter, billiondollarsellers.com. It's totally free. If you sign up and you don't open it and click in a month, I kick you out, even though it's free. But it comes out every Monday and Thursday. A lot of good actionable e-commerce stuff. Amazon primarily, but I also cover some TikTok and some Walmart and some other, a little bit of AI and stuff in there. But it's getting rave reviews right now. So a lot of actionable tips and strategies in there. It's not a promotional marketing email.
And Kevin, I'm a subscriber. I appreciate it. And I love your newsletter. So do yourself a favor and go out and sign up for Kevin's newsletter. So Kevin, thanks again for being here. As always, a wealth of knowledge and such an impressive entrepreneurial background. You've heard of serial entrepreneurs. Kevin King is a serial entrepreneur to the 10th or 100th power. It's amazing. It's amazing to learn from you, Kevin. And thanks again for being on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Last thing, Kevin, thank you for your service to the seller community. Not only just have you made your money, you've made your millions, but you've also helped others understand what you kind of were born with and knew naturally at the age of 3 and 4. So thank you for that service that you do to the seller community and all the great content that you share out there. And we'll have you on the show again in the future. Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's very kind of you.
If you're ready to start growing and protecting your brand on Amazon with a team of experienced Amazon operators, you can visit us at day2podcast.com. That's day2podcast.com. And lastly, if you know anyone else who would benefit from this podcast, like these amazing stories and information from Kevin King, please share it with them. Thank you for listening and happy selling.